All right, so today we're diving into something a little different. Escape from Tarkov cosplay.
Oh, wow.
But not just like, anybody who throws on some camo gear.
Yeah.
We're talking about some serious dedication here with real-world gear, meticulous detail.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah, you and me both. And to guide us through this, we've got some clips from two Japanese EFT streamers, Zika Hatsuden Taizin and Tamatthi. Now, what really struck me was how they got into this whole thing. Like Zika Hatsuden Taizin, he was saying it was the fact that EFT uses real equipment.
Interesting.
Yeah, and that kind of sparked his whole cosplay journey. So I got to ask you, have you ever had that moment where you're playing a game and some detail just jumps out at you and it's like suddenly real?
Oh, totally. Yeah, like you're seeing it differently. It's not just pixels anymore. It's like, whoa, this is a real thing.
Right. And for him, it was tactical gear, right?
Yeah.
But it could be anything, like a historical weapon, a piece of architecture.
Or a plant, even. I know some folks who got into botany because of a game.
No kidding. See, that's what I love about games, those little aha moments.
Yeah.
But back to these streamers, he's really taking it up a notch.
Up in a notch how?
So he's not just like finding similar looking stuff, he's analyzing the in-game gear, figuring out the actual manufacturers, and then sewing it himself.
Wow, the commitment.
Yeah, and get this, he even mentioned marking his sewing lines with pink thread for a cleaner finish. Like, that's next level stuff.
That's dedication to the craft. Makes you wonder how many other hidden crafting communities are out there thanks to games.
Totally. It's like a whole world we don't even see. And speaking of worlds, both these streamers were talking about EFT's popularity in Japan, how it's known for being super tough, a real endurance game.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like the challenge is the appeal.
Yeah.
Fits with a lot of Japanese gaming culture.
Right. But it's not just playing, they were talking about endurance streaming too, which is something I haven't really encountered much.
Yeah, it's definitely a thing. Basically, streaming for super long sessions, often on really hard games. It's kind of about pushing limits, both for the streamer and the viewers.
So less about being flashy and more about shared perseverance.
Exactly. Like, we're all in this together through the grind and the triumphs. Very community driven.
Now, there's this one story Zika Hatsuden Taizin told that I just have to share. He actually got feedback on his cosplay from the BSG modeling staff.
Wait, the developers themselves?
Yep. They even sent him sketches with notes on fabric and string placement. Pretty wild, right?
That is amazing. Talk about validation. And it shows a real shift in how developers and fans interact. It's collaborative now.
Totally. I mean, can you imagine the feeling? Like, the people who made the game you love are giving you props on your work.
Definitely fuels the passion, right? It's like your hobby is part of something bigger.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder, how many other games are out there with these passionate communities, these hidden connections between the digital and the real?
So many stories waiting to be uncovered.
Absolutely. But we'll save those for another dive. For now, let's get back to EFT and these amazing Japanese streamers.
I mean, it's pretty inspiring, right? Like seeing that kind of back and forth.
Yeah, totally. And you know what else is inspiring? Tamathi's story about the kunai.
Oh, yeah. The kunai. What a choice.
Right. So he wins this streamer event and gets to pick any in-game item.
Which is a huge deal in EFT.
Oh, yeah. And instead of going for something, practical, he picks a kunai.
A purely symbolic item.
Exactly. And it's such a clever way to bring in his own background, Japanese culture, even a little Naruto reference.
Totally. And it's not just about him either. It's like he's representing something bigger.
Exactly. It's personal expression, but it's also cultural representation.
Yeah.
All within this hardcore military sim.
It's like even in the grittiest worlds, there's room for that personal touch.
Absolutely. And it makes you realize, how much thought people put into this stuff.
Oh, yeah. Like Zika Hatsuden Taizin mentioned this whole community in Japan dedicated to recreating EFT gear.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
It's pretty niche, but he said there are 30 to 40 people actively sharing their work online.
Wow, so dedicated.
Right. And for such a specific thing, it's got to be passion driving that, not just hype.
It makes you wonder if the developers are aware of this. Do they see what people are doing with their game?
I bet they do. And I think it's got to be pretty cool for them, right? To see players not just playing, but living the game.
Yeah, it's like taking that virtual world and making it real in a way.
It's a whole other level of engagement. We've been talking about the details, the community, but I want to go back to something Tamatthi said about why EFT is so popular in Japan.
Yeah, what was that?
He said Japanese gamers often enjoy games with a high degree of difficulty, He used the word endurance.
Endurance, yeah, that's a good word for EFT.
Right, like it's not a game you just breeze through. It takes patience, skill, and it's about overcoming those setbacks, which can be really appealing.
And that ties into the whole endurance streaming thing too,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, absolutely. It's not just about playing, it's about sharing that struggle.
And like you said before, that shared experience, that sense of community.
Yeah, it's like we're all in this together through the tough raids, the frustrating moments, but then there's that feeling when you finally succeed.
That feeling of accomplishment.
Yeah, it's unique to games like EFT, you know, and it creates a really strong bond between players.
So we've talked about the dedication, the community, the challenge. But what about the future? Where do these streamers see EFT going?
Well, Tamatthi mentioned wanting to get into clothing creation, which makes sense, right?
Yeah, he's already doing the gear, so why not clothes?
And Zika Hatsuden Teizin, he's hoping more people will come to appreciate the modeling work that goes into the game.
Oh yeah, he was really emphasizing those details.
It's just like he wants people to see the artistry behind it, the realism that makes this whole cosplay thing possible.
So appreciating the game on a deeper level.
Exactly. Not just the gameplay, but the craft that went into creating it.
Yeah, it's like they're saying, hey, look closer. There's more here than you think.
Right. And that's something we can all take away from this. Like, what are those things that spark our own passion?
Exactly. And I'm not just talking about games either. It could be anything. Books, movies, even just walking down the street.
Totally. Like, what makes you stop and say, wow, I want to know more about that? Or I want to make something like that.
Right. And it doesn't have to be, you know, some grand ambition. It could be as simple as learning to bake a cake or knit a scarf.
Exactly. It's about finding those little things that make you excited, that make you want to learn and create.
And who knows, maybe it'll lead to something bigger, a new hobby, a new community, even a new career path.
The possibilities are endless, really, and that's what's so cool about it. It's all about exploration, you know?
Absolutely. And I think that's a perfect note to end on. So, to everyone listening, go out there and explore. Find those things that spark your passion. And maybe, just maybe, you'll discover something amazing.
And hey, if you do, let us know. We're always up for a good deep dive.
That's right. So until next time, keep exploring, keep creating, and keep those passions burning.